you a live look out in New York City, as today is day 2 of testimony in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. This morning, his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is scheduled to take the stand. Fox 5 New York's Briella Tomasetti joining us live this morning in Lower Manhattan with the graphic testimony by a male escort on day 1 of the trial. Briella, good morning to you. A lot to dissect.
Yeah, Gina, a lot happening yesterday. It was a quick moving day. A lot of things taking place, in fact, before the noon lunch break. But after prosecutors wrapped up their opening statements, they told jurors to prepare to hear about nearly 3 decades of the defendant's crimes and more also about his inner circle who allegedly enabled him. We also heard from a publicist for Sean Diddy Combs who said that he is feeling optimistic considering his family is here to support him.
Be ready to have his side told in open court. Yeah. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Combs' family, including his mother Janice, plus his 3 sons and twin daughters, all arrived at the courthouse yesterday morning. His children stepped out of a black van holding hands. Prosecutors called their first witness to the stand, Israel Flores. He's now an officer for the LAPD, but in March of 2016, he was assistant director of security at a Los Angeles hotel when he got a call that a woman was in distress on the 6th floor. That woman was R&B singer and Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Prosecutors showed jurors the now infamous video of Combs kicking and dragging Ventura down the hallway. Flores testified that he recorded the hotel's video of the attack on his cell phone. Prosecutors have maintained that video is a key piece of evidence. The second witness was a male escort named Daniel Phillip, who testified that he was paid $700 to $6,000 to have sex with Ventura while Combs watched and gave instructions, with the very first encounter happening in 2012. Phillip told jurors he stopped participating after he saw Combs throw a bottle at Ventura and then drag her by her hair into a bedroom as she screamed, saying he too feared for his life. As Phillip went into the details, Combs' daughters left the courtroom twice during the most graphic moments. Singer-songwriter Jaguar Wright said she came here to support the victims and briefly spoke outside the federal courthouse yesterday.
We have to remember there are real survivors like Natanya Rubin. This is why I'm here.
And before court finished for the day, the judge reminded the jurors, by the way, who are 8 men and 4 women that'll all remain anonymous, to not speak about this case once they left. And court resumes at 9 o'clock this morning with cross-examination of Phillip first, followed by Ventura's testimony. For now, we're live here in Lower Manhattan. Gine, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Briella Tomasetti there with Fox 5 New York. Briella, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And as we further dissect the very latest of this case, again, if you're just now tuning in, today is day 2 of testimony in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. This morning, his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is scheduled to take the stand. Right now, we want to bring into the conversation none other than former Miami Dade State Attorney and now criminal defense attorney, David Seltzer. David, good morning to you. A pleasure to have you on the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, David, set the scene for us. What does this testimony from Cassie Ventura mean in this trial? For many people, when they hear that name related to Sean Diddy Combs, it takes them back to that graphic day when that surveillance footage was released of Cassie being dragged in that hotel hallway.
So the surveillance footage in Cassie's testimony means a lot to a lot of different people. What we have to remember is we're here in a criminal trial, and the government has the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. What that means is it's almost the highest level of proof that any court can impose. So her testimony has to prove the elements of the crime. And I don't know if the government's going to get there. We don't know all the evidence in the case. We're getting bits and pieces of what was released and what we're hearing through the media. So she has to testify that for the government that they meet the elements to prove racketeering. So far, what we know and what we can see is that domestic violence is prevalent in this trial. That doesn't rise to the level of a federal crime or racketeering in and of itself. So the government's going to try and put all of the testimony together with a pretty bow to prove to the jury that they can meet the elements of racketeering. It's a very tough road they have to get to.
David, so many great points you just made, and I love to further dissect them. So when we talk about the very latest of domestic violence, obviously we think back to the hashtag #MeToo movement, and many people made an example because they were found guilty of sexual violence, even domestic violence. Do you think that the jury, if elements are found to be true, if enough evidence is brought forth, that they will want to make an example of Sean Diddy Combs? We know this coming on the heels of that testimony yesterday from that male escort, and some of the things that we're hearing, David, just truly graphic.
Yes, they are. And unfortunately, though, that in and of itself isn't a crime. Sex consent is not a crime. Baby oil is not a crime. Everything we are hearing are state domestic crimes. And again, we got to remember we're in federal court for racketeering charges and sex trafficking. Having a male escort, while it may be a crime in certain jurisdictions, again, in and of itself, sex is consensual is not a crime. The issue that they're having to figure out is how they're going to get around this. And again, when you tell a jury that you talked about earlier to put yourself in a bubble when they leave, that's a very difficult task for a jury to overcome.
Yeah, not only difficult, realistically, we don't know if they'll be able to do that. When you think of all the media attention surrounding this case before it even went to trial, before jury selection even started, do you think Sean Diddy Combs' attorneys do have a lot of hassle as it relates to the media attention that's been surrounded by this case? Also want to ask you, we're hearing that term burden of proof. How does that relate to this?
So the burden of proof is what the government has to meet. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. It's almost a reasonable certainty that this crime occurred. And what the defense is going to try and do is take the evidence, and they've already started in their opening statements, as you heard Ms. Garrigo say, that baby oil is not a crime. They have to meet every element to prove this case. If they don't get to that, they fail their burden, and the jury must find him not guilty. Going back to your question about the media, that is prevalent throughout this whole case, not only for jury selection, but for the jurors and how they assess the credibility of the witnesses. How do they determine whether I should trust this person because he may or may not be, or she may or may not be a celebrity. And so the credibility of the witnesses that is key here and at stake to the determination of guilt. But going back to the jury selection, I don't believe the jury is going to, what I'm saying, self-sequester themselves for 8 to 10 weeks. I don't know how people live in a bubble these days, given all the media attention. You're telling people they can't talk to their loved ones, can't touch a phone, can't look at the computer. I mean, sitting on the subway next to someone home, someone could be talking about the trial, and then they have to report that to the judge, and then they're excluded. So they might run out of alternates very quickly here.
David Seltzer, truly a pleasure having you join us on Live Now from Fox to break down the very latest of this trending case. Anything else you'd like to add before we let you go? Anything myself and the viewers need to be keeping a watchful eye on as all of this unfolds?
I think the viewers have to remember that we're in federal court. I've said it before. There's no depiction of evidence. We're getting everything secondhand. So to give an opinion on basically what I'm calling the game of broken telephone is often very difficult, and we're not going to get it right sometimes. So we need to really, truly watch to see what evidence comes out and how we can interpret it, because all we're doing now is being armchair quarterbacks from what we're hearing from other people.
David, truly a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.